Hey there, beautiful people, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Aaronica Cole, and you are on the channel of Aaronica B. Cole & Co., where, of course, we know that my family plays the & Co. whenever it is they decide to make an appearance. And today, I'm super excited to talk to you about something that is really important in the sewing community. So, if you're a creative and if you are loving fabrics, which I actually think is a completely separate hobby than sewing, you're going to want to stay tuned to talk about the 9 toxins that are found on those fabrics that we have just purchased and how to get rid of them. Big shout out to our sponsor for today's video, which is Express Water. I cannot wait to tell you exactly the part that they play in this video. So stay tuned and let's get into it. Okay, so now pre-washing fabrics is not something that is new for you all here. You all follow my socials and I have done the TikToks, the Reels, all of the information on how I pre-wash all of my fabrics. But let's get into the reason why, because I promise you it's not in vain. Now listen, as a reminder, the goal is not to scare you straight. The goal is simply just to remind you of some of these things that are existing on your actual fabrics before it is that you decide to wash them. This is really important to me because so often we pay attention to what we put inside of our bodies, like we're choosing organic foods. I'm seeing all of these videos about how people are rinsing and washing their fruits, but we aren't doing the same thing with the things that go onto our skin. Now, this is something that is really important, whether it is that you're buying new clothes from off of the rack or if you're making your clothes and you're buying the fabrics. These two things go hand in hand together. So with that, let's go ahead and get into these 9 toxins that are living on the fabrics, waiting to get into your skin. The first one up is chemical residue. We're talking about dyes, formaldehyde, things like that. These sorts of things can get onto your skin and cause rashes. Now, if you're already a rashy person, then you don't need anything else on here. And most of us actually have sensitive skin. So getting rid of that chemical residue is definitely going to be a game changer in how that fabric feels on your skin. There's also pesticide residue. So buying organic fabrics and things like that is really great, but you have to remember that cotton, much like other fibers, is natural and it's sprayed with pesticides to keep the bugs off of it. Because of how that works, those pesticides are normally still present on that cotton when we put it on our body. Some of those side effects can include skin irritation, of course, as well as other rashes and skin reactions. Did you know that heavy metals can also be found in your fabric, or rather on your fabric? Yeah, we're not talking about heavy metal music either, although you can probably find some really great fabric that is heavy metal as well. Heavy metals found on fabrics can do a little bit more damage to your body than, say, the formaldehyde. We're talking about neurological damage and other things like that. So friends, if these 2 previous ones didn't want to make you pre-wash your fabric, the notion that heavy metals could possibly be lingering on that fabric should definitely make you want to go ahead and pop that into your washing machine ASAP. Again, not to scare you, but this is something that is really affecting children. So make sure that you're pre-washing fabrics and clothes. Okay, so raise your hand if you have an allergic reaction to things like ragweed. Okay, so here's the thing. There are allergens that are like that on fabrics as well. Fabrics can trap things like dust mites as well as pet dander and pollen. And of course, we know that this affects people who have allergies in various ways. Yes, we're talking about like your respiratory system. And if you have asthma, this can make things especially worse for you. So if you have made a garment from a fabric that has not been pre-washed and now you find yourself sneezing or wheezing, you should have pre-washed. Number 5 is mold and mildew. Now, these are typically things that we can smell if we unbox it, but we can't always control the environment in which our fabrics are being stored in, and sometimes things can get damp. There are definitely reasons that can lead to that are not associated with poor storage and neglect. We're talking about storms that come in and, floods that happen. People still have to sell that fabric, and by the time that it gets to us, it might have like a little mold and mildew problem. Now me, I am like super allergic to molds and mildews, like to the point where I feel like I might die. And that could be a side effect for you as well. So we're talking about respiratory issues as well as skin issues as a result of putting that directly on your body. Now, if there is a mold and mildew problem, you're definitely going to want to wash that fabric in hot, hot, hot water and dry it in hot, hot, hot heat, right? That's going to be extremely important. Adding things like vinegar into the water will also be really helpful. Did you know that a lot of fabrics come with flame retardants on them? Well, now you know. We're talking about like fabrics specifically for children. Like, I know that many of us have seen those like little labels that are like, oh, do not use for pajamas and things like that when we're talking about making clothes for kids. Both upholstery fabrics and fabrics used for children's sleepwear do contain flame retardants, and prolonged use of these types of fabrics or exposure to these chemicals really can do a doozy on your body. We're talking about endocrine disruption as well as developmental issues. So make sure that you're being mindful about the fabrics that you're choosing as well. Now, number 7 is an obvious one because we're talking about dyes. Now, how many of us have bought some denim fabric, made our garment, rubbed our hands up and down, and ended up with like indigo dye on our hands, right? Yes, this is because we actually do still have dyes inside of our fabrics, and this is not good for the body. Prolonged exposure to the dyes can cause skin irritation as well as dermatitis. And trust me, that is not fun. Number 8 can be a little bit of wrongdoing on our behalf if you decide to use things like fabric softeners and other chemicals from laundering. Now, we're a pretty toxin-free family. We really try to focus hard on using non-toxic soaps, cleaners, and things like that, simply because prolonged use to that is just really unhealthy for your body. It's not good for you to inhale, but putting it on your body can actually lead to skin irritation as well. So if you've been itchy a lot lately, friends, it might be time to toss out that fabric softener. Okay, and number 9 is fungal mycotoxins. That is the word. Okay, so listen, I'm out here really practicing big words to educate you, so I hope that you all appreciate this, okay? So it's obvious what fungal is, right? We know what fungi are. We're not talking about shrooms either, friends, okay? We're talking about the toxic ones, right? And mycotoxins can be formed when you're having wet or damp fabric live for a little bit longer time, that fungi gets to growing, and then those mycotoxins become present. And listen, anything that has toxin in it, I don't know about you, I'm not trying to have it on my body, on my skin, or anything like that. Exposure to these toxins can also lead to respiratory issues. Of course, we know that they're worse if you are asthmatic. It's me. I'm an asthmatic, okay? Of course, skin issues, in addition to some additional like neurological or allergic reactions. So definitely be mindful of that. Okay, so now that we know exactly what we're up against when it comes time to actually pre-washing these fabrics, let's put in a plan of action and talk about what are some of the things that we need to be doing in order to prevent these issues. And I get it. For some people, skin irritation is not enough for us to go ahead and pre-wash those fabrics. But as you heard, there are more than just some like little rashes that can pop up. The other thing to point out is that the skin is the largest organ on the body. I just wanted to let that sink in for a second. The largest organ in the body, right? We are drinking filtered water. We are eating organic foods. We are checking to make sure that, there are no PFAS and things that we use in and on our body. And we need to be just as diligent when it comes time to choosing to pre-wash our fabrics. So let's get into that. Pre-washing your fabrics is not just a simple step that you can skip. Now, I've heard people say, oh, I don't ever pre-wash my fabrics and I've never had an issue. And it's not an issue until it becomes an issue. I've been out at these fabric swap meets out in LA. I've been to them in New York. I've been to the fabric warehouses here in Atlanta. Now listen, there may have been a situation where I may or may not have been attacked by a spider that looked like it could have been dangerous and could have snatched my life while I was out fabric shopping. Best believe that the first thing that I did was pre-wash my fabrics. This is something that is super important. And this is important whether or not you're out here thrifting or you're buying fabrics or you're buying brand new clothes. In fact, my mom actually worked on the 20th Century Project where they talked about finding things like rat feces and things like that in these manufacturing factories. This is so important to me, which is why I was so excited to have the sponsor Express Water partner with me on sharing the importance of this, right? So yes, pre-washing is important. So what types of things should you be mindful of when you're pre-washing? Of course, the first thing up is you want to definitely wash your fabrics just as you would be washing your garment that is made from the fabric. I personally tend to wash all of my fabrics in hot water first. Why? Because I just want to make sure that everything is off of my fabrics, and I am limiting the amount of possible exposures to skin irritants that I can. I am a rashy person. I have created 3 rashy people, so I'm really looking out for our skin, okay? So you definitely want to make sure that you're also choosing a non-toxic soap, laundry detergent. I love Mrs. Meyer's. I like 7th Generation. I love, 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 love Molly Suds. These are all really great recommendations, but don't just drop them in the washing machine and let them just wash immediately. Definitely let them soak in that water for a little bit of extra time to let that soap really sink in and get into that those fibers. One of the other things that you may want to do is grab one of these fiber catchers to prevent the micro fibers from escaping and going into the water, okay? So super important to even include that. After you've gone ahead and really let that fabric wash, if you have enough time between the time that you bought your fabric and the time that you make the project that you bought the fabric for, I would even possibly let it run one more time. Why? Because you can never have fabric that is too clean. Also, if you're like, okay, Aaronica, I heard you talk about fabric softener. Friends, listen, fabric softener is like, oh, so toxic. Fabric softeners work because they add a layer of film to your clothing to make it softer. So if you have that film on there, like, it doesn't wash away. It's sitting there on your skin in the water, and it's not coming off. I don't know if you know that. So what do I use instead of fabric softener? I'm a huge supporter of using white vinegar in your water, as well as using wool dryer balls to make sure that that fabric is properly beat up. That's what I like to call it. I call them my fabric beaters because that's what it does. It sounds like, you know, they're playing a game inside of the dryer when they're going. And to make them smell, I add just a couple of drops of my favorite essential oils, either bergamot or lavender. Okay, so now that we've gone over pre-washing, let's actually get into what express water is and what it does, and more importantly, why you need it for more than just laundry. Now, I use Express Water's 3-step filtration system, and it does my entire house, which means that the water that I'm washing my body with has been filtered. The water that I get out of my sink has been filtered. The water that is washing my clothes has been filtered. So that means that the water that's coming out of my fridge, like my filtered water, has been filtered so many times that I dare Toxins to try to make its way into my house, because it will not, okay? So now for me, I love that there's the whole house filtration system. This because high I talked about having sensitive filter, skin, and this is something that really helps. Designed to save you both time and money. Nature on average, each set of filters is good for up to 100,000 gallons or 6 to 12 months of use. So that really depends on how much you use water and other various factors. Can you believe that? It filters out major water impurities like chlorine, rust, dirt, sand, and a whole bunch of other stuff. The result? Water that is clean, pure, and free from all of the nastiness. But how does this tie into pre-washing? I feel like it's obvious at this point in time, because here's the thing. When we're pre-washing our fabrics, we really want to be starting out with clean water. Why would we want to start out with water that has rust and chlorine into it, right? We know that chlorine actually can possibly bleach our colors. And y'all, looking at this fabric, this is a fabric that I designed, I do not want that chlorine to come in here and possibly bleach out any of these colors that I have going on. They are just too good for that. And listen, the only rust that I'm trying to have in my house is this beautiful rust fabric. Literally, that is it. I don't want any rust in my water. I don't want rust on my pipes. I don't want rust anywhere, let alone my skin. So utilizing a clean water to wash these fabrics just makes sense, okay? In addition to the rust, dirt, and sand that I mentioned before, it also filters out turbidity, volatile organic chemicals. Yes, friends, volatile organic chemicals, because those are even a problem. Cloudiness, industrial solvents, total organic carbon, pharmaceuticals, turbidity, odors, and cloudiness, which means that you are left with clean, clear, delicious water that is ready to wash your fabrics, wash your body, and go into your body and clear out your system. Okay, so also you're welcome in advance for spitting this hot fire knowledge for you, okay, and introducing you to a system that you absolutely need in your house. Again, I want to give a huge shout out to Express Water's filtration system for sponsoring this video. I'm really happy to be partnering with a brand that understands the importance of providing clean water, not just for us to drink, but for our entire bodies, because we all know that we need clean water in order to live. All right, friends, that is a wrap for today's video. I feel like I've scared and educated you enough for one day. Don't forget that clean water is something that we need in order to make our projects beautiful, our skin beautiful, so we look really cool and confident as we photograph these beautiful projects. And it's something that we need for our entire body, not just our fabric. If you learned something in the video, definitely feel free to drop me a comment, as well as make sure that you subscribe, like, share, you all know. Do all of the jazz to make sure that we can disseminate this important information and get the Express Home Filtration System in as many homes as we possibly can. Clean water isn't just a convenience, it's a necessity. Thanks for joining me today, and keep crafting, my friends. I'll see you in the next video where we'll be doing some more sewing adventures, having fun, and of course, keeping it real. Until then, stay clean, stay inspired, and I'll chat with you then. Bye-bye.